Hello and welcome to my in-depth pre-season jungle Warwick guide. Warwick was considered the king of the jungle for a long time, but after a while the meta changed and he became unpopular due to his low clear speed and lack in early gank ability. After some time, he got picked up as top laner. His sustain and high base damage on all of his abilities made him too strong of a laner. After several nerfs to his mana costs, ability damage and a rework of his passive, he got under control again, and his popularity decreased until he was nearly never seen again. The changes introduced to the jungle and overall game flow in the Pi patch 3.14 awoke the real dog. The king of the jungle has returned to his throne. To start things off, let's talk about Warwick's base stats to find out what his god-given strengths and weaknesses are. His base health is very high, but his health per level gains are even higher. At the beginning he ranks at place 23. At the end of the game he already has enough health to take place 6 out of 116. He also has the second highest attack damage in the game at level 1 and still keeps his spot in the top 10 as the game progresses. While his armor stats are just a little bit above the average, Warwick is one of the few champions that has magic resistance gained per level, which helps him greatly at staying tanky throughout the game without investing too much gold into these stats. His attack speed is also in the top 20, both on level 1 and level 18, which keeps his clear speed and health noticeably high. Now this doesn't look bad, does it? And it really isn't bad. His base stats are actually one of the best in the game, until it gets to his mana pool, and with that to his biggest weakness. Warwick never had the biggest mana pool, but it wasn't that big of a problem until his mana cost got nerfed. Mana will be a big point in his core items, runes and masteries. Let's take a look at his basic abilities and some stats about them. Warwick's passive, Eternal Thirst, is an ability that offers both magic damage and heal on hit. It has a so-called exact scaling, speaking it increases with each level to allow a more accurate usage of it. This effect stacks up to 3 times on the same target. This allows Warwick to stay healthy and deal significant single target damage in the jungle and duels. The heal is equal to the base damage he is supposed to deal. Unlike Warwick's Q spell, the heal is always the full value and is not influenced by the total damage dealt. Hungering Strike is Warwick's Q spell, which deals a variable amount of magic damage to your enemy. The damage that goes out is always the higher one, speaking if for example 16% of the enemy's maximum health is more than the flat 275 damage, you will do magic damage equal to 16% of the enemy's health. If 16% would equal a lower amount than 275, Warwick deals the flat amount. You also heal yourself for 80% of the total damage dealt. Unlike his passive ability, the damage that gets dealt influences the heal you receive. So if an enemy receives 200 damage after reductions from this ability, you will heal yourself for 160 health points. His W spell, Hunter's Call, is an attack speed buff. It buffs Warwick and allies around him for 10 seconds. This spell is a one-point wonder which helps you to apply your passive faster and simply clear the jungle faster altogether. Hunter's Call will help your carries to deal more damage in teamfights or while pushing a tower. On a little side note, at 40% cooldown reduction this ability's duration is longer than its cooldown. Speaking, it's a permanent attack speed buff for both you and your allies. The mana cost of this spell is very low, so it's no problem late in the game to maintain the buff permanently. Blood Scent is one of the abilities you are never happy to see popping up above your head. His E-spell is a toggleable passive, which grants Warwick a huge movement speed bonus as long as the enemy champion is under 50% of his maximum health. This spell allows you to chase down priority targets, but it also helps reaching lanes that are already fighting faster. One of the best abilities in the game, without a question. Now to the gem of every champion. The ultimate. Warwick's ultimate is called Infinite Duress, and is a single target suppression initiation with high damage. His ultimate has many ways to be used. You can jump on an enemy you chased after you flashed over a wall, you can initiate teamfights with a flash ult, or simply out of a good opportunity. You can turn the tides of a duel easily thanks to the lifesteal and high damage of it. The possibilities are endless and you will always find a good way to use it. It applies on-hit effects 5 times, that does include your passive. Intentionally or not, as soon as you cast the ultimate it counts your passive as fully stacked on the enemy you attack. Deals and heals the maximum amount 5 times. His ultimate scales with 200% of your bonus attack damage but deals magic damage. Warwick's skill set is weird like that. Let's go on to an in-depth analysis of his spells and how you profit from which stat provided by items, runes and masteries. His Q spell has an average cooldown, but its use is ridiculously good. By getting 40% cooldown reduction, you are allowed to use this ability every 3.6 seconds in late game. The damage is very nice since it scales with maximum health and the heal is even better. Provided a lot of effective health, Warwick becomes incredibly hard to kill if he is able to use his abilities in such small time windows. Now we get to the mana costs. As you can see, they may not appear a lot, but for such a small mana pool they are. Warwick's pool is by default just big enough to use his Qs 6 times until he runs totally dry. This is going to be a big point and we will have to consider while we talk about his core build. This spell scales with 100% of your total ability power, but it doesn't matter that much since his build doesn't use any of it. As already mentioned, the heal heals you for 80% of the total damage dealt. Speaking, focusing targets with small amounts of magic resistance can be profitable, but not necessary. Hunter's Call is a true secret weapon in the late game. Most people don't know that you can have the spell permanently active if you have 40% cooldown reduction. This is basically an aura, as I jokingly mentioned at the bottom. You just have to remember to keep it active. This spell with that much cooldown reduction is really strong, if not overpowered. Simply imagine a passive like that. 40% attack speed aura to all nearby allies, with 35 mana cost every 10 seconds. Really nice utility and good enough to justify the cooldown reduction needed alone. The mana costs of it are low. You can use it early in the jungle while clearing camps every time it's up. It won't drain you like your Q spell does. As already said, Bloodsend is a great ability. It doesn't profit from cooldown reduction, but it doesn't even need to. The spell itself is just great. Not much to say about it. I want to talk about his path for a little bit before I go into detail about his ultimate, since it takes a good part in the use of it. Eternal Thirst stacks up to 3 times, or better, it has to be stacked 3 times to reach its full effect. As soon as you cast your ultimate, it applies the passive and considers the target to already have 3 stacks on it. The massive effect of it is displayed in the description of the ultimate, and this is the part that amazes me about Warwick. His kits simply work so good together. Every spell has some sort of synergy with its others. The base damage of his ultimate is already very good, but the passive boosts it for a good amount. Don't forget the healing, it turns so many duels around already, you couldn't imagine. The cooldown on it is low by default, but cooldown reduction makes it accessible even more often. There have been many teamfights in which I could use my ult twice or even 3 times in a row. A cooldown of 40 seconds is simply too low for an amazing tool like this. It also scales with 200% of his bonus AD, but does magic damage like the rest of Warwick's kit. The lifesteal he gains during his ultimate is strange. It's not exactly lifesteal, it's more like lifesteal and spellbomb at the same time, but also heals for 30% of the damage dealt by item passives. Speaking, the total damage of the ultimate. Now that we are over the basics, let's talk a bit about the skill order. I think it's self-explaining why we want to skill his ultimate whenever possible. More damage and lower cooldowns being the main reason. The ultimate is followed by his Q. It gives you higher sustain in the jungle early in the game, good damage while dueling or ganking, and obviously higher damage and lower cooldown on each rank. Many of you will disagree with me at first, but let me explain why we max his E first and not the W. The reasons are quite simple if you think about it. The attack speed is great, but if you follow my way of building and playing Warwick, its full effect is only reached later in the game, while Bloodsend is always available. Another big reason is that Bloodsend's range increases with each rank, which allows you to reach lanes that are already fighting faster to make either a surprise appearance or counter gank. This plays a really big role as Warwick is always dependent on his ultimate or E-spell to be active to be useful early in the game. The scaling movement speed also justifies maxing it out first. You always want to start the game with machete and 5 pots. For pure jungle farming you will only need 2 or 3 potions, but if you take damage while ganking, the leftover ones are very useful to support you staying healthy and continuing farming. Most of the times you want to simply farm the jungle until you reach level 6 or you have enough gold to buy Spirit of the Lizard, Elder and Boots. As always, this is variable and depends on your personal playstyle, but in my experience it's better to simply stay in the jungle until you have enough gold. You will rarely be under 70% in health, so you can keep your jungle control up by not recalling. After you got your Lizard, Elder and Boots, you have to start to play extremely aggressive. But more to that later. Let's just stick to explaining the items for now. At your next spec you need to get some tanky stats, speaking effective health. You're going to dive a lot of towers and it's your job to always be at the front, so it's the best call to go for health over stats early. Sunfire Cape or Spirit Visage are the items of choice in this situation. Get Sunfire in almost any situation. Spirit Visage is a rare exception if you're playing against the AP jungle or AP on either of the solo lanes. Common junglers to get Spirit Visage against are Eve, Shyvana, Nautilus, Gragas, etc. If their jungler is the only magic damage dealer, you should still go for Sunfire. If your enemies have a lot of CC, get Mercury's. If they deal only physical or heavy auto hit damage, get Tabais. Now that your main items are done, you have a lot of optimal item choices. I'm going to explain which ones to get at which situation and what the profits of these are. Frozen Heart on Warwick is almost a stereotype, but after all still one of the best items to get on him. It provides you heavy amounts of armor, mana and cooldown reduction. Warwick needs all of these stats like no one else, so Frozen Heart is nearly always a perfect item choice. Iceborne Gauntlet basically provides you the same stats as Frozen Heart does, just less cooldown reduction and armor, more mana, a bit of AP and the on-it effect. Against a heavy AD team, combining Frozen Heart, Spirit of the Lizard Elder and Iceborne Gauntlet is the best choice of items there is, since it provides you altogether 40% cooldown reduction, a ton of mana and armor, a good amount of extra damage and the on-it effect. The on-hit effect is important, since it procs on your ultimate and hinders targeted enemy from escaping you even more. It also gives you a good amount of extra chase abilities through the slow. Randuin's Omen is up next, probably the best anti-AD carry item in the game. If you cast the item just when your ultimate is about to run out, your target will not go anywhere for at least a second thanks to the slow Gauntlet provided if you build it together. Even without Gauntlet, the item is a great choice since it slows down the cutting potential of ADCs enormously. The AoE slow is also considerably strong since it sums up to around 4 seconds in the late game. If you hit multiple enemies while you are on the carry, it holds the entire enemy team down for a good while. All the armor items combined give you the best anti-carry build for Warwick. It combines utility, item CC with the best possible stats for him. If you ever get to the point where you have a full build, you will see the terror Warwick brings upon his enemies. Other possible items on Warwick are Morphle Marshes, Wits End and Blade of the Ruin King. I strongly discourage you from getting Ruin King unless you have 4 enemies that rely on heavy health stacking. The item isn't that good anymore really. Wits End is a case for itself. The passive doesn't entirely pay off and the damage is mediocre. It takes up a slot while there are several better items to get instead. Morphle Marsh is one of the best items in the game. The massive attack damage boost and 400 effective health against magic damage alone. If you are playing against a heavy AP team, you should always get it. Now I show you my 2 favorite final builds. One for a AD heavy opposing team and one for a heavy magical damage enemy team. As already said, Frozen Heart, Iceborne Gauntlet and Spirit of the Lizard Elder combined provide you your core stats. 40% cooldown reduction and all the other perks of it are simply great on Warwick. Ninja Tabbers provide you a chunk of extra effective health against carries and make you tank up even more. The slow synergy of Randuin's Omen with the other items is incredible. The attack speed slow from Frozen Heart and the movement speed slow from the Iceborne active will make your enemies seem like they are playing on 5 frames per second, while it's actually just you being OP. One of the best possible ways to build Warwick. The build against heavy magic damage looks a bit different, but the playstyle is basically the same. Get Maw, Spirit Visage, Mercury's, Gauntlet, Spirit of the Lizard Elder and Wits End. There isn't much to say about this build, it's pretty straightforward. Extra damage on auto hits and your ultimate thanks to Maw, Lizard Elder and Wits End. 40% cooldown reduction and tons of effective health, what more to wish. So here we are at the masteries. I'm going to these unscripted, like in person, because I would totally lose myself in the writing process and the whole thing about the masteries would take 10 minutes alone. So I'm just gonna get over it really fast in person. And please forgive me my spelling mistakes, I'm not a native speaker. So yeah, there we go. We take a point double-edged sword for additional 2% damage, that's a lot. And this 1% additional damage we receive doesn't matter that much since we get so tanky anyways. This is a very good point for Warwick. We take Fury 5 points in like 5% attack speed bonus for better clear speed. Butcher, better clear speed, same thing. Feast, additional sustain and mana. Brute Force for a little attack speed attack damage boost in late game. 5 damage early, so we clear fast and deal more damage obviously. And these spells right here, for masteries, are excellent for Warwick. So if we deal damage to an enemy with our Q spell for example, we deal 1% additional damage with everything, spells and all hits. With spell weaving and blade weaving, we increase the damage on the ultimate, like these both proc. And it's the same with our Q spell. And I'm not sure about the passive, but I don't think it works on it. But anyways, these points are really great, especially for the ultimate. And we take 3 points here for obvious reasons. This works super good with our E spell. So if they fall below 50% health, we can not only chase them down super easily, but we also deal more damage to them, which is like the greatest thing ever. This one right here is really good for Warwick since we deal both magic and physical damage. So 6% penetration, really good point. And Havoc of course, 3% increased damage. Then we take, in the defense tree, we take Enchanted Armor to get additional armor and magic resistance. 5% doesn't seem a lot, but if you think about it this way, if you have 300 armor, you get 15 for free. Like, there's nothing that could make the job better than this. Tough Skin, reduce damage from neutral monsters for extra sustain, and Bladed Armor for extra clear speed. This got nerfed quite a bit. Like it's really not that good anymore like it was in the last season, but it's still worth a point. We take Flight Health, so we are tankier early, and we take Juggernaut for better, like for more health in the late game. Alright, that's it. And for the runes the same again. These are pretty fast explained. We take flat attack damage on the quints and on the marks to clear the jungle faster and do more damage. We take armor to sustain the jungle better, and we take magic resistance scaling on level 18, so we get the best value out of them. We don't really need magic resistance that early, and I think at level 8 or level 9, I could be totally misinformed there, we already have the same amount we would have if we take them flat, so yeah. Start the game with Machete, 5 potions and the red trinkets. It's very useful to maintain jungle control and protect self-champions like Vayne or Shaco late in the game. You want to start your path nearly always on the bot lane side so you can get a good leash without making a solo laner miss experience. Make sure to use your W already a second before the camp spawns so you and your teammates have the buff perfectly in time. After you cleared the red buff, move onto the wolves. Your attack speed buff should be off cooldown when you reach them. You want to move in the direction of top lane after you got blue buff in level 3, since the opposing jungler will most likely try and gank there too after he completed his loot. Use your trinket whenever you feel like a spot might be warped and you are running the risk of getting counter jumped. In this situation our top laner lost the early trade and was already very low in HP, so he took the risk and ran into Jax recklessly. You never know what your teammates have in mind, so make sure to tell them to fall back if they are in the risk of dying. After this more or less successful gank, you want to either continue farming your jungle or take experience and gold on a lane that would simply run into the tower and get lost otherwise. If you killed the opposing laner and your mate is still alive, make sure to help him pushing out the lane and remember to tax. Only actively push the lane if the opposing top laner would be able to freeze it when he returns. Your goal still is to get Spirit of the Lizard, Elder and Boots. Tier 1 or Tier 2 doesn't matter. Return to farming towards your desired items and keep an eye on the lanes that will need help. Consider camping lanes that are obviously weak, in this case top lane. Even after 5 minutes of ganking and farming you still have a lot of potions left. Try and keep your health always over 70%. Whenever you see one of your lanes fighting, move to help them as fast as possible. If they die too fast, it's your job to put the opposing lane into a disadvantage. Thanks to your E-spell you can chase enemies down without problems. The best case scenario would have been LeBlanc flashing and you ulting after her. This way you can bait a flash and still get the kill. After getting her flash, make sure to return to your jungle and take your buffs before the enemy jungler takes them. Usually you want to take the second red buff for yourself, but since LeBlanc is a hard matchup for Lux, this may help her winning the lane. Instead of waiting for Jax to push the lane into the tower first, Fiora takes the risk of Lee Sin ganking and engages. In this situation you want to stand between Lee Sin and your mate to protect her from a skill shot. As soon as Lee Sin gets attacked by a tower, make sure to use your ultimate on him to prevent his escape by using his W on Jax or minions. Unfortunately there are tons of minions so I can't chase Jax down. Always prefer taking safe farm or objectives over risky kills. Return to the base, buy your items as soon as possible. I decided to go for Ninja Tabais over Mercury since they have 3 strong AD jumps and the damage reduction also helps rediving towers. Remembering that our Fiora is behind, I went for a straight gank top lane. We never really care about CC but early more than ever. Make sure to dodge stuns or slows, then continue chasing for the kill. When your enemy is running from you, don't use your ultimate instantly. They might think you have cooldowns and waste their flash. Here you see a perfect example of why we max Eve out first. We reach the lane in no time and keep up the increased movement speed the whole time. Don't play greedy. I knew that I had no chance against 3 players and their minions. After a quick look at the minimap I saw Lux moving down and decided to bait them a bit. Unfortunately they saw it and retreated. Thanks to my speed it was no problem closing up again and using my ultimate on Jinx, which led to a solid double kill. I quickly had to move down to help Lux, who got attacked by Lee. I knew she would most likely not survive, but I hindered him from using his Q on her. This gave me enough time to kill Lee later on. The entire mid game goes on like this, a very active gank heavy playstyle. The longer the game goes, the harder you will become to kill, and the bigger threat you get. Remember, you're a late game Warwick, you don't take shit from anybody. Make sure to lock down their carries and tank whatever they throw in your face. It's not a bad thing to die first in teamfight, it simply shows that you did your job right. You peeled for your carries while putting danger on the enemies. Your effective health outweighs a death. Your enemies are in a tricky situation. If they focus you, they waste all their cooldowns and possibly ults and summoners on you. If they leave you alive, you'll eat them. And this is exactly the situation you want to create while playing Warwick. Show presence all over the map and make them feel the permanent danger they are in. When you're nearly full build, do whatever it takes to win the team fights. A simple flash ultimate on their carry will possibly win you the game. Chase down enemies, you can escape as easily as you can follow them. Don't hesitate to dive twin towers if needed, they aren't going to kill you in the near future. Late game Warwick is a god. At the end of the guide I want to talk to you guys a few unscripted words. This was actually my first guide I've ever done. So I would really appreciate positive criticism in the comments. Because I really don't know, I don't know what you guys want to see, and I don't know what you guys appreciate, what was good, what was bad, etc. So I would really love if you could tell me what to do better next time. If you have questions, you can join my chat room on Europe West, or ask them on Reddit in the comments, and I'll make sure to answer them. I'm also planning to do more guides like this one, just based on your criticism, and I'm going to improve it on your criticism. And if you would like to see those, you could subscribe and maybe leave a like if the video helped you or you liked the video. And you can also tell me which champion you would like to see next. Right now I would like to do Shyvana next, or maybe Mundo, something along these lines. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for watching and good luck. See you next time.